You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file.
That doesn't sound too hard.
Boom! This is Making Tracks.
This is the way.
Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
I know these people. They are brutal. Does this look Jedi to you?
That's not how the Force works.
They'll never see it coming.
Count me in.
Lisa back.
You're listening to Making Tracks. This is episode 246. I'm my co-host Mark Newbold, and joining me today is a man who asks the question, if Tom Cruise has a Lego minifigure made of him, is it scale 1:1? It's Mark Mulcaster. How you doing?
I'm very well, my friend. That's probably not a question many people could ask and get away with it, I don't think.
I just felt it was relevant this week, given that we will be talking. I mean, have we ever talked about Tom Cruise on Making Tracks? I'm not sure if we have.
I don't think so. No, I don't think it had any real reason to.
Definitely reason to talk about him today. But before we get into all of that good stuff, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Very well also. Should we get straight into the news? I think we're going to go down avenues and corridors that we don't normally go down today.
Let's do it.
So, could, and this is the big question, could Dave Filoni and Lynwen Brennan be joining forces as the new co-president of Lucasfilm? That's the scuttlebutt. It was posted over at Puck News, who apparently are well regarded in the space. They're saying that Kathleen Kennedy, who has already said that she has a succession plan and she does plan to step away and then focus predominantly on her production duties, that there will be two people stepping into that role. Dave Filoni will step in as the Chief Creative Officer and take care of that side of the role, and Lynwen Brennan, who's already Lucasfilm's General Manager, will step in and take care of the executive side of it. These two names, these two people, are they people that you think could do a job for Lucasfilm?
I think you and I could do a job for Lucasfilm, or at least on Lucasfilm. This kind of whole kind of conversation about what happens after Kathleen Kennedy, we've talked about it before on various different podcasts. The whole concept isn't new of having two people take the role, i.e. split the role so you've got more of a creative, focused person, and then you've got somebody who can kind of focus more on the day-to-day running of the Lucasfilm studio. So that's not, I don't think, anything groundbreaking. And really, it would have been bigger news if it wasn't Dave Filoni's name in the mix, if it was somebody else. Rightly or wrongly, this is not my opinion, it makes perfect sense given his history and his tenure at Lucasfilm, how he's moved from animation to live action now to film, but actually he has got the experience and the breadth of kind of understanding of working in different mediums to kind of shepherd the creative vision of Lucasfilm into the next 10, 20, or I guess 30 years.
Lynwen Brennan makes sense because she's already an executive there. She's already general manager, proved herself in the role. And so that doesn't feel like a risk. That feels like a logical step up. But Filoni, because he's got this creative role, because he's a disciple of Lucas, directly trained by him, if you like, and as you say, there's the trust from the fandom, would it be a concern? And I'm throwing out a scenario now. We're 4 months away from Mando and Grogu arriving. And I'm asking you now, as the guy that theoretically gets to push the button on when this happens, if it is indeed these two people, how would you play it? When would you do it? Would you do that before Mando and Grogu comes out, at risk of that film not overperforming and not doing as well as certain people would like it to? Or do you do it afterwards, once the films come out, ahead of Starfighter? When do you think this should happen?
Well, between Mando and Starfighter, you also have Ahsoka too as well, don't you?
Very true.
That does make it an interesting position. I wonder if it is going to be after Ahsoka season 2.
D23 time, back end of the summer.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Given that Starfighter is meant to be considered like a new era, like a fresh beginning for Star Wars, and not a reboot, it's just a continuation, but we're under hyperbolic nonsense and stuff, it kind of makes sense that probably it would be then. Or unless I'm completely wrong, and because this is already leaked, it could happen sooner rather than later. It could happen, with Mando and Grogu. I guess the right time would be what's on the slate, what's in development, when's the right time to transition over, And is there obviously a transition period that's already started? I think there was when George and Kathy...
6 months, yeah.
Yeah, that was already underway before like any announcements were made.
So you're saying this could already be happening? This could be happening right now?
It could be, yeah. I don't want to be the guy who's kind of, oh yeah, it's definitely doing this and that. I mean, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know what really is going on behind those doors in Lucasfilm.
Sure.
I don't think many people do. I think even people on set and that will probably not have much of an idea, because that stuff will be kept well away, because ultimately what you don't want is you don't want uncertainty, and you don't want that kind of stuff to start being when Dave's in charge, we'll do this or that. You know, you have to have a clear focus and clear progression of the company and productions.
I mean, the worry is always expectation levels. It's a worry for Mando and Grogu as a film. So some people will be out there because they want to punch and wave the flag for Star Wars, saying it's $1 billion film, it's $1 billion film. And then other people will temper their expectations. I think we probably temper ours.
We have.
And sort of say 600-700 million, you'd walk away thinking that's a pretty decent haul. To me, Mando and Grogu isn't a big screen Star Wars saga movie.
No.
It's obviously not a TV film. It's a movie version of a TV series. This, to me, is X-Files Fight the Future. This is
Generations.
Star Trek Generations. It's a TV show going to the big screen. That's where I feel we are, whereas Starfighter feels like that's a Star Wars big screen movie because it's never had a life anywhere else. So there is a difference. I think there is I think you can be fairly fair on saying that without being derisory in any way. Filoni especially, not Lynwen Brennan. We know the way of the world. If anything goes wrong, Lynwen Brennan's going to get walloped with it, just the way Kathleen Kennedy's been walloped with it, because she's a woman and also she's a Brit. She's from Wales. And so she'll get hammered if nothing works or people perceive that it doesn't work. If everything goes great, then Filoni is God. But the expectation could be so high that it could scupper this thing in a way before it ever really gets any traction. And we're heading towards the 50th. Starfighter has been done by Sean Levy. You know, Kathleen Kennedy was the one that was the real impetus behind that happening by bringing him in and inviting him to be a part of the Star Wars galaxy. So there's a lot of things that are happening in and around the 50th are very much her doing. How do you think about that?
You know, the problem was that when George was in charge, George got it both barrels as much as Kathy has. The only difference is that he was a guy. So you didn't get the misogynistic comments. You just got people's childhoods being raped and all that. So
yeah.
How are we on this podcast measuring the success of Mando and Grogu? Because if it breaks into China and does $1 billion worldwide because it's broken into China and somehow they really connect with this film over any other Star Wars that's ever tried to get in there, but the actual story is a pile of pants, from a fan perspective, doesn't work, then yes, it's a commercial success, but has it done anything to help the franchise? In terms of has it moved the story along? Has it done nothing? Solo wasn't really a success financially, but narratively speaking, from our experience of going to the cinema and actually watching it, I think we could all agree it was a good time and we thought it was a good film. So therefore, it was successful on that level. How do you kind of measure it? And ultimately, I guess as a studio, Disney, they're going to be looking at the cold hard cash, and then they're probably going to be looking at the critical acclaim for this. And I guess thirdly, they're probably going to be like, is there a sequel in here? Can we do another Mando and Grogu film in 2 years' time or 3 years' time?
It strikes me that Filoni needs and will need to be thick-skinned because the exact reasons you've just lined up really well, actually, that Lucas had all of that thrown at him and at the end was like, why would I carry on? People hate me. I might as well sell it because whatever I do is wrong. Kathleen Kennedy hasn't really responded to any of the batterings that have been hurled her way.
A lot of people say a lot of nasty things about Kathleen Kennedy and the decisions she's made, but actually she's never really turned around and bitten back. You know, she's let the fandom get on and be the fandom.
Which is smart, really, isn't it?
I think it's probably the only way you can do, because also, when she has tried to come back and not fight back, but at least answer some of these queries around directorial decisions and stuff, I don't think she's the best at giving a straight answer, a straight down the line answer. And to be fair, actually, I don't think we've ever really had to put Dave in that position. We also got to remember that I'm guessing Kathleen Kennedy, you can't just appoint 1 or 2 or 5 people to take a position without that being signed off by the heads of Disney. You know, so there's also got to be confidence higher up as well.
There's got to be confidence for sure. And as you say, it's not an arbitrary thing. But also, I would imagine somebody like, for example, Dave Filoni, and certainly Lynwen Brennan for what she's done at Lucasfilm. There will be other studios watching those guys with great interest.
Yeah.
That if Paramount wanted to push the Transformers franchise even harder, they'd want to speak to somebody like Filoni and go, look what we've done with Star Wars, now come and do that with us.
Hi, this is Dorian Kinji, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
But one thing I think is worth discussing as well is, are there any concerns with Filoni taking over? And I'll lay my thoughts out initially, is that he has, along with Favreau, had that whole Mandoverse era very much boxed off purely for them to tell their stories in. There's been no books, there's been no comics, there's been nothing else in that era other than the stuff that they've done, only adaptations. And we're now 7 years into the Mandoverse era, and nobody else gets to play in that particular part of the Star Wars sandbox. My concern is not that Filoni will want to bring in all of his own characters, because, you know, a lot of those characters that he's passionate about are already central to Star Wars anyway. But my hope is that he would be, and he'd be insane not to be, but he would be open to somebody like, not Tony Gilroy, because I think Tony's done his time and moved on, but a Tony Gilroy type guy coming in with a story, you know, like a Leslie Headland wanted to do Acolyte and Gilroy's done Andor, and people like that come in with a Star Wars story and just let them go with it and not feel like you've got to make it feel like everything else, because one of the beauties of Andor is that it's very different to Ahsoka, very different to The Mandalorian or anything else.
One of the positives about Kathleen Kennedy is that she hasn't just tried to kind of find 5 different George Lucases to make 5 exactly the same versions of Star Wars. She has tried to be daring. Ultimately, the problem is that when you care about a franchise as much as we do as fans, when something doesn't work, it's not like you can just go back to the drawing board and it hasn't cost
500 million or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, the expectation, then the actual kind of sitting and watching the thing and what have you. We've kind of got to that sweet spot, I think, where we can all accept and we can all be quite happy with the fact that you can have a Mando and Grogu and an Ahsoka and a Acolyte even and an Andor style TV show existing in the same space, and nobody's actually getting the knickers and the twists about the fact that they're tonally different.
Yeah.
So that I would like to hope would still continue. But yeah, to your point, you're right. We haven't had anything really, like there's been no expanded universe Mando and Grogu stuff. That is a concern. But also, you know, we've had other stuff, haven't we? We've had the High Republic. So you've had other publishing initiatives and stuff. So we haven't had to be quite so reliant on. I mean, admittedly, to your point, yeah, there's probably a bit of a gaping hole that there isn't when I look at my bookcase, anything really Mando and Grogu, except for a couple of art of books and maybe a visual dictionary. And when you kind of think about it, bear in mind that those 2 characters really are the central focus of the franchise. They are definitely the face of that franchise for at least the next 18 months until Starfighter, at least. That is a bit of concern. That will have to be something that I guess the licensees will probably want to push back on. You kind of think Del Rey and Marvel Matt will be like, hang on a sec, we've got to start exploring these other eras and stuff. George was very protective over that Clone Wars period, and I get that because he knew he wanted to go back and tackle that. But at the same time, certain things kind of did creep in a little bit, and you know, you didn't feel like you were completely lacking. At the moment, it feels very hands-off and protected. I guess what we don't necessarily want to do is get into a position whereby there's a biasness towards characters that Dave has created, like Ahsoka, over maybe new characters. Let's be fair, Ahsoka season 1 was good, but I don't think was as widely well received across the board, both in fandom and also general public. So therefore, what you kind of don't want is like, you know, there to suddenly be a season 3 and a 4 and a 5 of Ahsoka. If A, it's not warranted, and B, actually, it's not really kind of what I think the fandom's wanting, instead of something else, not related to any Filoni stuff.
So do you think then that when Filoni, and I know we're talking mostly about Filoni because Lynwen Brennan feels like a natural fit for that role in the executive position that she will take over. So that's not as much of a talking point because that feels more of a logical step. But with Filoni, do you think he will then become more of a Kevin Feige character in the sense that he has an overview on a lot of stuff and he's not actually as intrinsically involved, and maybe every couple of 3 years he'll direct an episode of a show, or he'll direct a movie every 3 or 4 years, or something like that to keep his hand in? Kathleen Kennedy's produced everything, TV and film, all the way through. Her name is on it. Filoni will kind of assume that role as well when she has stepped away, along with, of course, Lynwen Brennan. But do you think he'll want to keep that creative pulse going, or do you think his focus will have to just sort of expand to cover a lot more stuff because he's got to really now have the overview on all of it. And it isn't just film, it's not just TV, it's not just animation, it's parks, it's comics, it's books, it's everything that goes with it, that obviously that Kathleen Kennedy has to deal with.
That's always the danger as a creative. You get to a point whereby you can carry on doing what you're doing. You can carry on being a director, but ultimately that next career progression puts you pretty much in an office. Yeah. It takes you away from that creative point. And it's always going to be something that the person will have to kind of reconcile with. I mean, I suppose for one thing, I would imagine more than ever, you kind of got that feeling that George probably just did what he wanted to do. Let's bring back Darth Maul. Why not? Let's just do it. We can also imagine seeing Pablo Hidalgo and Leland Cheek having kittens in the corner. But you kind of think, Kathy, she's probably more reliant on these people, and maybe that will be the change. Dave will probably have some kind of creative say, but you've got the story group, and so I guess he's got to be thinking about bigger picture first, rather than getting into the minutiae of, well, actually, so-and-so didn't have that lightsaber hilt until episode 6 of Clone Wars or something.
Yeah.
That's for somebody else. And I guess it's a similar kind of thing, with the parks and stuff. It's like, okay, what are we going to do that's big picture to enable more people at the parks? Actually, you have the creatives who want to do something. They have the vision, and they come to Lucasfilm and they're like, we want to do this with this character. And then basically they've got to say yay or nay, as in like whether or not you can do it or whether or not it's the right time. And if it's not something they can do, it's then something that maybe another character could do or could appear. And so I guess it's looking at the bigger picture first and foremost, and probably actually having to step away from the minutiae so much.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
So Sean Levy is a guy who really likes having his photograph taken, as we've noticed lately, was speaking with the New York Times, and he did drop a fascinating snippet of information regarding Starfighter, which isn't out for another 16 months. It's still obviously in post-production right now. He mentioned that back in November, Tom Cruise turned up on set and also confirmed that not only did he grab a camera and film a scene as the cameraman, not the director, but that the scene was a lightsaber duel. Sean said, last week Steven Spielberg was here, and now Tom Cruise is wielding a camera, ruining his very nice shoes. And he goes on to say, when you see the movie, you'll know that part of it was shot by Tom. I mean, how cool is that? So not much of a quote, quite a cool visual. But for me anyway, reading that, yes, cool. Tom Cruise filmed a scene, and I love the thought that he did that because obviously he's a Star Wars fan like the rest of the world. But the big takeaway for me was that he filmed a lightsaber scene.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the news outlets, I think, buried kind of lead a little bit on that in some respects. I mean, maybe because they're looking at the clicks and getting Tom Cruise and directed stuff. But like you said, he grabbed the camera and pointed it at a couple of actors. And hell, for all we know, just because there's a lightsaber duel, that could be the equivalent of like a Life Day holograph. It could just be two kids sitting down watching a lightsaber duel on TV. Doesn't necessarily say that it's going to be a lightsaber duel like Rey versus Kylo. I mean, it could be, which would still be cool. But I guess, yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting any kind of lightsabers in Starfighter. Not really, not from the vibe that we've been given so far anyway.
The vibe and the tone very much feels like, I mean, just the name Starfighter. So you're expecting to see whatever that era's version of an X-Wing or an A-Wing or whatever it might be out there racing around and doing whatever they're doing. We saw the ship on stage, part of a ship on stage when Sean Levy and Ryan Gosling came out at Celebration in Japan. Whether or not that's the vehicle that we see in the film or whether it was just something cool for the stage, we don't know. But expectations based purely on the title are kind of set. So as you say, to throw in a lightsaber element into that, you've got to think this is 5 years now, I think, after The Rise of Skywalker. Rey has buried her lightsabers. Ben Solo is dead. Who's around to have a lightsaber duel? So are we filming a flashback sequence? Are we filming brand new characters? Is there a cameo from somebody that we're not expecting? It does actually open very pleasant Pandora's box of questions.
It does. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, didn't even think because only last week we were talking about Lucasfilm recreating the Empire Strikes Back duel with Vader and Luke for Force Awakens. For all we know, they could be watching a holograph of some news archive of the Battle of Endor. And like they've got some CCTV footage of Luke taking on Vader. And wouldn't that be an interesting spin? Luke on the offensive, tackling and striking down Vader. What are the optics around that? What I really like about this, which is completely tangential to what we're probably going to talk about, is the fact that we've got a director in Sean Levy who seems to be very open talking about his Star Wars journey. It kind of brings me back to more of a prequel era. Things are still hush-hush and all that, and everybody's still like NDA'd up to the wazoo. However, Sean's putting stuff out. He's leaving these little tidbits, not in the kind of way that I felt like JJ was doing for The Force Awakens, where it was all a bit mystery box and all maybe a bit of a misdirect, and, you know, it's JJ, so ooh. But this is cool. Got his mate on set. He's given him a $200,000 camera and said, go and film that lightsaber duel. Or maybe actually Tom's just picked it up and just done it himself, like I'd imagine Tom Cruise probably would. I
was going to say, I can't imagine him asking the cameraman. I can imagine him grabbing the camera from the camera.
Totally, right? Just go, give it. Look, I can hang off of planes. I'm pretty sure I can hold this IMAX camera and be fine, you know.
But you've had other Star Wars actors. Daniel Craig is the one that comes to mind initially, you know, great cameo in The Force Awakens. And by all accounts, there are plenty of others in there. There's people on Crate in the Trench, and there's people all through the films, you know. I think Kevin Smith's in Rise of Skywalker. So there's different people dotted around the trilogy. But to have Tom Cruise come in, and yes, Tom Cruise, well, actually, no, Tom Cruise literally is too short to be a stormtrooper. But, you know, Tom Cruise could have been in any. He
could have been an Ewok.
He could have been an Ewok. He could have been in any of those creature suits or whatever we might see in Starfighter. You wouldn't want his face on screen. That's way too identifiable unless he's the lead. But at his stage of his career now, Cruise is 63. You've got to start thinking, or I start thinking, maybe this is where he wants to do the Robert Redford thing and ease out of the on-screen stuff and ease into the directing stuff. He didn't direct. He grabbed the camera and filmed it. But my point being that Tom Cruise's contribution to Star Wars has now happened. He has actually had a hands-on involvement in a Star Wars film. It may be one shot, maybe one scene, it doesn't matter. Spielberg did his bits in Revenge of the Sith.
Exactly.
You know, there's people have their fingers in odd pies. But for somebody like Tom Cruise to actually be able to go, rather than I'm second stormtrooper from the left, like, let's say, Daniel Craig might have said, Tom Cruise can go, I shot that scene. And so maybe that's the new celebrity cameo now. It's like we're going to have all these different guys coming in, grabbing the camera for one shot.
That would be kind of cool. Or even a scene or something like that and getting different takes. When you've got Ryan Gosling as the star of Starfighter, I don't necessarily know if actually having Tom Cruise as a cameo, like open face, would actually pull me out of it any more than having Ryan Gosling in the film anyway.
Fair point. We have got Ken lead in the film, haven't we? So
exactly.
That's true.
And his contribution to cinema and to film can never be taken for granted, both on camera and also even like as a producer, as executive producer on Mission Impossible and that.
True.
I don't think he's going to be hanging off of the wing of Ryan Gosling's Starfighter, but you never know. That might be something that he tried to pitch to Sean Levy.
Hi, I'm Duncan Poe, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
So I'm here in Surrey with Robert Emms, who was Lonni Jung in Andor, and Jacob James Beswick, who was the ISB agent Heert in Andor. Heert. Yes. So, gentlemen, how's your day been so far?
Yeah, it's been great.
Really good.
Yeah, it's been lovely, like meeting all of everybody who's watched the show and hearing how excited they are and how much they enjoyed season 2.
Yeah, it's always so lovely to meet the fans because they just totally get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you were both in both seasons of Andor,
Julian,
and I've seen both of you previously at various events, most notably at Star Fury. I think I saw you a year ago, and Robert, I saw you this year. I don't think you had you'd lost your voice a bit, hadn't you?
I was really sick.
Struggling.
I lost my voice. I couldn't speak.
He's always getting sick.
Yeah, I'm always sick. I need some vegetables.
So the weird thing is, Jacob, when I saw you, you were on stage with the young lady that was also Elizabeth. It was also prominent in season 2. Now, at the time when I saw you, obviously season 1 was out, season 2 was coming out, and you guys knew what you'd done in the show. You'd been very much probably more background characters in season 1. So when season 2 aired, and particularly your demise, and certainly yours, Jacob, they were incredible to watch. Absolutely amazing. And tell us a bit more, first of all, Robert, about how you found out what the end was going to be for Lonni.
Well, I think because the second series ended up being the last series, it all kind of got crammed into one series, so it ended up having to go across a longer period of time in a shorter space of time. And so, I kind of figured out, I think I'll probably die in this series because it's going to, that's really the only way it's going to go for him. And it was nice to do the second series being like out as a spy to the audience. So I could play a bit more with that rather than in the first series. It was really just about going undetected, even to the audience. So it really was just about blending in. So it was nice, and we came up with a nice little dynamic between our two characters. There was some sort of puissance there, which Lonni was using for his advantage. So that was kind of
honey trapped.
Honey trapped, exactly.
And so your character sort of faded, really. It was quite a quiet ending almost, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's kind of sort of the point, really. It's sort of tragic that way, isn't it? It was just okay, you're done now. You're of no use to me. Do you know what I mean? So that was kind of
So Jacob, now your ending was a little bit more dramatic. When you read that and how it was going to play out, what were your thoughts?
Do you know what? I thought it was, I don't know if poetic justice is the right word, but I was like, he's sort of like, the fact that he's used as a kind of shield.
Yes.
And so an element of his death is by his own hand in a way, by his own men.
It's amazing
It's
to watch.
quite, and it kind of points to how fickle the whole, Imperials are, and how the people are kind of fodder, even though they've sacrificed their whole lives to the Empire. But the Empire strikes back. Even against its own people, apparently.
Were you a big fan of Star Wars before you were involved?
No, really not.
No.
But when I was a kid, I think I got interested in the kind of in the lore of it a little. I watched episode 1. I can't really remember how much. I loved Jar Jar Binks, but I wasn't like a huge Star Wars fan. I've got cousins and different people in my family who absolutely love it. But when I found out I got cast just at the start of lockdown, so then I went back and I watched all of the films to kind of get a bit of context.
So your cousins and different people in your family that were into Star Wars, I bet they were thrilled to bits, weren't they, that you were in?
Yeah, they were, and were so excited watching it. I never watched it with them. I was meant to go around their house and watch it with them, but I never did. But yeah, they were super excited and couldn't really ever have imagined. They were fans from when the first ones came out, my aunt and uncle, and then my cousins have been fans for their whole lives. So when they found out that I was in it, they were very excited, and they're still to this day very excited, asking me for signed pictures. And my uncle got on Etsy a non-official figurine and painted it of me. I was like, I'm right here, Uncle Jeff. You don't need to paint and have a mini version of me. You can invite me around for tea.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And what have you got coming up? Have you got anything in the pipeline?
No, not really. I did a play at the start of the year, and then I shot something that my friend wrote at the start of the year as well, which hasn't come out yet and is in post-production. But aside from that, just keeping on. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you don't get anything off the back of that, I'd be very surprised, because that was an amazing, amazing
so
thing.
much.
The whole thing that you did, not just the death scene, obviously everything that you did leading up to it, but no, it was brilliant to watch. And what a lot of people like about Andor is, whilst it is Star Wars, it's deeper than that. It's a real good drama series. And the fans, well, it's certainly the top of my list. And I've been a Star Wars fan for a long time. So thank you for what you brought to Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, so you should be.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And Robert, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got what have you got on?
Me off
yeah, I died. Well, no, you were busy. You were busy.
Cut me out of the interview.
I would never do that to you, Robert. So you've got a film that's just been released, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that the choral?
Friday, the choral, it's a film that's out in the cinemas now. Hopefully still now by the time you release it.
Yes,
with Ray Fiennes, an Alan Bennett script, and actually Mark Haddy's in it. First time being reunited with Mark since Atlantis. So it's really, really beautiful film. Really nice.
Mark from the site has seen the film. He saw it yesterday, and he said it was really good. He said that you're really prominent in it as well.
Oh yeah. My character's lovely. It's a really lovely character. Like a guy who's he's a very kind of he's a gay guy in 1916, but he's incredibly kind of anti-war, defiant against the war, and kind of I could really relate to him and his story.
Yeah, brilliant. And have you got anything else coming up?
I've got
talk about.
I've got a film coming out called Bad Apples, which I did. With Saoirse Ronan's in it about a young boy that goes missing. And I've also got a film out which I did called Blood on Snow, which is the next Carrie Fukunaga film, which is like a sort of a hitman film.
Cool.
Yeah, with Aaron Taylor-Johnson and actually Ben Mendelsohn as well. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
See, you can't get away from Star Wars, can you?
No, I can't.
Brilliant. Well, thanks ever so much for your time. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, this is Neil Scanlon, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
So, Lego fans, new expression is launching 1st of March 2026. It's available to pre-order right now. It's called Lego Smart Play. It launched at the Consumer Electronics Show. Dave Filoni came on stage to help present it alongside Azad Ayaz from Disney. And it's the first major expansion to Lego since the mini brick came out back in 1978. So it is a big, big deal. What do you make of this? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's something kids are going to get into? Do you think it's something that kids are going to want to play with? And more importantly, think it's something that adults are going to want to buy?
The last question is probably the most important one. Showing my age, the first thing in my head, it's kind of like the Comtech chip readers that we had for episode 1. It kind of is. Obviously, there's people at Lego who are going, you reductive git, because that is, but it's kind of a similar kind of thing. Like you've got these bricks which are contextualized in terms of they interact with the minifigures and the ships. And do you know what? On some level, I guess it's going to be a case of, it's not going to probably float everybody's boat. I don't necessarily know if it's going to help the adult collector. Everyone who are building the UCS stuff, so you don't tend to probably need a smart brick for that. But then at the same time, if you've got one in a playset, it means that, once you've built it all, right, you can use it to reenact the boarding of a Tantive 4 or something like that from A New Hope. Then fair play. It's kind of a big deal in a weird way, a small kind of plastic brick, and it's polarized, the Lego fandom quite a bit. I've seen quite a lot of positive and negative comments about this.
It's an interesting one because it is something brand new. They've chosen the Galaxy Far, Far Away as the place they want to launch it, and they launched it with 3 new sets. There's an X-Wing set, Darth Vader TIE Fighter set, and then there's an A-Wing and Emperor's Throne set. Some great images on Fantha. Go and have a look. Details that go with it, pricings and such. But, yeah, you're right. It does very much remind you of the Comtech chip, which, of course, came out, 25, 26 years ago. But it does seem like a bold thing for Lego to do. But then again, I suppose Lego has to keep pushing on, coming up with new innovations, making their toys more interactive so they can work along with the technologies and everything else. So it's a brave move.
Yeah.
So there's 3 sets coming out in March. We're heading, obviously, towards the 50th next year. These 3 sets are all from the original trilogy. Obviously, A-Wings are a Return of the Jedi era thing and the Emperor's Throne. Can you see this now expanding as its own sort of Lego line? Because they've done X-Wings before, they've done TIE Fighters before. These aren't new vehicles in that sense, in terms of Lego releases. Mm-hmm. But the whole brick aspect that they're bringing into it, do you think this will become its own line? And they're going to take it to other IP as well? You can see there being Disney ones and Potter ones and all the other stuff.
Yeah, easy. I mean, and you kind of do think, once they've started with Star Wars, Star Wars is what? It's the oldest film franchise?
Star Wars and Winnie the Pooh, I think, are the 2 oldest ones.
Star Wars, then. You've got, the HBO version of Harry Potter coming out. In fact, it does really well. And, Harry Potter is almost an evergreen franchise these days as well.
Yeah.
That's where you can see it. It's like, right now, I've put out something which is Harry Potter related. It'll probably have Daniel Radcliffe's voice on it, but it might have the new Harry Potter's voice on it. I don't think it necessarily limits your scope of playing with like Lego itself. But ultimately then, if you want to use a smart brick, you're kind of maybe tied into certain kind of scenarios. But then ultimately, there's no reason why, if you were to kit bash an X-Wing and VA Wing packs and put them together, you could still fit that smart brick in. It just means that whatever you end up creating is going to sound like an X-Wing. I guess we'll see what happens. Change is always difficult for perennial franchises and toy lines. It makes it difficult to do this. But the fact that Lego have, you kind of got to say, well, look, fair play to you, because ultimately they're thinking about making sure that the company and the toys kind of stay in the forefront of people's minds for the foreseeable future. Well, you've listened to enough of me talking for this week, I reckon. So we're going to call it. And again, we had a listener's question, which we will push back to next week. However, don't be shy, don't be scared or afraid. Send in your listeners' questions, because we love to hear from you and we want to hear your thoughts and opinions, and we like being challenged. Mr. Newbold, can you tell people how they can drop us a line?
I can indeed tell people how to drop us a line, and please do, like you say, we would love to hear from you, and here is how you can do it.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com, head to links.fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fantha Tracks TV and Fantha Tracks Radio. Thanks to James Semple for the Fantha Tracks intro, Blues Harvest for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 o'clock UK time. Our weekly news show, Good Morning Tatooine, goes live Sundays at 9 o'clock UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fantha Tracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news.
And that's me done for this episode, Mark.
Excellent, brilliant, nice one, matey. Thank you very much. Everybody else, look, you have a fantastic week in Star Wars, whatever that means to you. As always, support your local independent Star Wars toy stores. Stay safe, and may the Force be with you.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's another episode of Making Tracks.